So good morning, everybody. My name is Reverend Dr. Ron Fox, and I'd like to welcome you to the Sunday morning celebration for the Center for Spiritual Living Space Coast. If you've never been to a Center for Spiritual Living before, we believe there's one God, many paths to that God, and we're here to love, honor, and support you no matter what your divine path is. And the Center for Spiritual Living Space Coast is a safe haven for people of all beliefs and lifestyles, whoever you are and wherever you find yourself on your journey of faith, you're welcome here. And so to begin our service this morning, my wife Becky, who's a practitioner emeritus, will open us with a prayer, and then Carol Gabika will do a spiritual reading for us.
So I just invite everybody to turn within to that place of the Most High, to that place of stillness and joy. And I'm knowing that this infinite power that is always is expressing through this morning, through each and every one of us right here and right now. I'm knowing my oneness and infinite power, that it is the very core of who and what I am. And I'm knowing this for each person right here and right now, forever. That this morning is filled with its joy, with its love, that as we release all the morning's activities, all the concerns, all the worries, and just allow ourselves to rest in this moment, to breathe in this joy, to breathe in love, to breathe in abundance, and knowing that that is, all of this is really who we are. At our very core, our very essence, we are each these qualities of divine spirit, just waiting for us to knock at its door, to be ready for the joy that is being held here for all of us. And so I'm knowing that as this morning unfolds, it's unfolding in divine perfection and in divine order. That infinite spirit is directing and guiding the words and the emotions and the feelings of Reverend Dr. Ron and his message. It fills our hearts with joy. It fills our consciousness with new knowledge, new wisdom. And so knowing that this morning is filled with God's love, I just release it and just know that it is done. And so it is.
So it
Migrating starlings form waves of wings across the sky, moving as one, rising and soaring, diving and floating, a cacophony of the sound of wings cutting through the air, many beating to the same drummer, free and limitless, yet joined by invisible strings, holding together a band of gravity warriors, cutting their trail across the sky. Their energy seeping into every pore of the observer. The spirit blessing us with a reminder of limitless life.
Wow, thank you, Carol. That was really gorgeous. So good morning again. And this morning, I want to speak about a life without limits. And you and I can continue to expect more and more good in our life indefinitely. The only limits that we have are the ones that we place on ourselves, the ones that we expect. Because limitlessness is a state of consciousness. we can experience as much good as we can embody. You know, people that have made significant contribution in politics, in the arts, in sports, they share a couple of characteristics. One of them is they know what they want. And the second one is they are willing to go for it. They don't let any obstacles or any fear get in their way of living their dreams. You know, we believe that everybody has a gift to bring to our world. And we need to be willing to move beyond our comfort zone to share it. And you know, I know for me, when I remember that spirit is with me, it's a little bit easier to take a risk and to go for broke. And I was thinking this week, Becky and I live in a condo that's about 50 feet from the water. And it's the view is really gorgeous. And I was thinking that when I was a boy growing up in the Bronx, I couldn't have envisioned this. It wasn't anything I could even dream about. But as we grow, we can develop a greater mental equivalent. And that's kind of a jargony word. A mental equivalent is when we wish something to come into our life, we can see it, we can feel it, we can touch it. The more ways we can bring it to life in our imagination, the easier it is to bring to life. That's what a mental equivalent is. So as we grow, we can develop more mental equivalents, and each step leads to another and to another. And before we know it, we're living a life that transcends any previous dreams that we might have had. And the truth is, if you can dream it, you can do it, and you can be it. If you can dream it, you can do it, and you can be it. Why? Because we're not alone. We are not alone. The one that put that dream into your heart stands ready, willing, and able to help you fulfill it. Let me tell you a couple of things that Ernest Holmes said about that. He said, there's an intuition within you which already knows that you are one with good, that your destiny is certain, and that you must listen to this intuition because it's the voice of God within you. And something else he said is, when you say all things are possible, you mean that the power that created the planets is now operating in your affairs and in and through everything you do. So, you know, a couple of years ago, Becky and I had had lunch with somebody who's a former congregant, and we're still friends with her. And she was kind of saying to us that one of the reasons she stopped coming as often is, he said, you know, I'm kind of retired, and you talk a lot about what we can do and how we can live and the life we can have. And I think sometimes when you get to be a certain age, you're beyond that stuff. So I mention that because I want to tell you, in case any of you were thinking that, like, I'm retired, I'm too old to do this kind of stuff, I just want to say to you, no, you're not. That's baloney. And let me just give you a couple of examples. And first, just let me say, age, they've proven this over and over again. Age is not a barrier to learning or to doing. And again, let me give you an example. I read a couple this week. I read about a lady who was illiterate her entire life. At 92, she went back to elementary school and learned how to read and write. And at 96, she graduated high school. I read about two other people that were friends. One was 79 and one was 84. and they both graduated law school together. And I read about an 89-year-old man who became the oldest student ever to graduate from Sinclair Community College. And lastly, I read about a man who set the world record when he graduated from Eastern Oregon University at 99 years old. So it's never too late. Don't tell yourself that, because it's not true. So Joel Goldsmith, who's one of the great New Thought writers, said that our good flows from the activity of God, not from another person. He said people are the avenue and the instrument from where our good comes, but they're not our source. And I've probably said this before, but I always come back to, when I think about our source, to when I had my own business in Southern California, and sometimes I wouldn't have any work in the pipeline, or I wouldn't have any candidates to present, and I'd start to get really nervous. And Becky would always remind me. She'd say, "Hey, people aren't your source. God is." When it gets like that, go within and talk to your source. That's what Goldsmith was saying. And he gives us a couple, I like a couple of examples he gives. He gives one. He said, suppose you had an orchard with fruit trees, and one of the fruit trees had no fruit on it. You wouldn't expect another tree to supply fruit to that tree, or you wouldn't expect one branch to give fruit to another branch. Each tree bears fruit from within. And he said, look at a spider. A spider spins its web from within, and our good, yours and mine, unfolds from within us, meaning from spirit within. So Madeline Kay is a woman who wrote a book called Living Serendipitously. And she says in that book that each one of us are a champion, that each one of us is unique with our own hopes and our own dreams. And just as I said before, she says it, whatever it is, whatever your hope is, whatever your dream is, you can make it a reality. Everything starts with a dream or with a possibility. And the difference between a dream and reality is one of them is a thought and the other is actualized. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. So how do we actualize a dream? We actualize a dream by making choices and then acting on those choices. That's really important. We don't get there just by dreaming. We make a choice and then we take action, even if it's a little step at first, and then a bigger one and a bigger one. We can start small and then grow. You know, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who many of you know, spent a lifetime working with people who were dying. In fact, she's the lady who came up with the 5 stages of grief. And she used to say that the people that she was with when they were dying that were the saddest were the people that never lived. She said they were the observers, not the participants. One of the best books I have read is a book by Greg Lavoie called Callings. And in the book, Greg says, you know, if we're living lives that are wrong for our spirits, and if we say no to the calls that could have set us on the right track, he said we're living like lost souls. And he said in the Afghani language, the verb for to cling is the same as the verb is to die. To cling to what no longer serves, is how I took this, is the same as the verb to die. And in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus said, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. And Greg writes, his father never lived his call. He had a call, but for whatever reason he didn't live it. And Greg Lavoie said, because his father didn't live it, Greg lived his. Seeing what it did to his father by not living his call lit a fire in Greg. And he said, in the year that he died, his father said to him, when the brass ring comes around in life, kiddo, you'd better grab it because it may never come around again. And Greg felt that was the saddest thing he ever heard. And I thought when I read that, it goes right back to what Kubler-Ross said. You know, his dad was saying near the end of his life how sad he was that he never lived his call. Mary Morrissey said that living your dream changes your life in 3 ways. The first one is you recognize the deep desire that's in your heart. And she said the second one is that you break through limiting and self-defeating thoughts. And the third thing she said, and this really touched me, she said, you realize no dream is as great as the person you become by remaining true to it. And she said, what you may do may be magnificent, but the soul that emerges from doing it is more so. And I thought about that a lot. And you know, there was a time in my life when I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. I was really unhappy with what I was doing. And when I became a minister, when I realized that's really what I want and I did it, I really get what Mary Morrissey is saying. My entire life changed. My entire attitude towards life changed when I found out what that possibility was, what that dream was, what I wanted to be, and what I wanted to do. You know, there's a story from the movie, I hope some of you saw Good Morning Vietnam with Robin Williams. And there's a scene in there where one of the other characters borrows a bike and goes riding, I think it was in Hanoi, he's riding the bike and he loses control of the bike and he falls. And as he falls, a truck is coming at him and the truck, this speeding truck, goes within an inch of his head. And when he goes back, he says to Robin Williams' character, he said, you know, while I was lying there, my whole life flashed before me. And you know what scared me more than anything? It wasn't even interesting. Let me ask you, if your life flashed before you, would it lull you to sleep? Can you hear God's voice saying, I've got more for you. Don't settle. Don't live a little life. There's so much more for you to experience. Don't settle. You know, in the Talmud, it's written that every blade of grass has an angel that bends over it and whispers, grow, grow. You and I have an angel that leans over and whispers to us, grow, grow, become all you can be. Tama Keeves, I've spoken about her, not recently, but before. Tama Keeves is somebody Beck and I met, and she went to law school. She graduated, I think, top in her class in Harvard Law School. And then when she started doing law, she realized it's not what she wanted. It was stifling her. And she knew what she wanted. And eventually she did it. And she talks about in one of her books how every scientific discovery, every gallery opening began as a wisp of someone's imagination. And she says, but we're guided. We are so often guided to demean ourselves and to deny our inner knowing. She says, but the life you imagine is real. The life you imagine is real. You know, Ernest Holmes said in that, could you imagine what a cruel God it would be to put this longing in, to put this thought of what you want to be and not give you the means to fulfill it? How cruel would that be? So we believe and we know if you've got that yearning, you've got the ability to fulfill it. We each have to discover our own truth and to be willing to leave the pack behind. I read an article this week by a lady named Kathy Caprino, and the title of it was Hallmarks of an Empowered Life. Are you living one? And here's her definition. I want to read you her definition of an empowered life. She said, empowerment means accessing and marshaling all the passion, power, and purpose you have inside you so that you can live and work as you truly want to. And then she says, you are living an empowered life when, one, you feel respected, that other people value your input and your contributions. Two, when you feel meaningful, when there is meaning and purpose in the contributions and the roles you assume. She says another one is when you feel contributive, when you're using your skills and your talents to serve others. And she has a whole bunch of others, but I just want to do one more. She said, you have a vision for your life. You're not a cork bobbing in the ocean with no direction except where the tides and the wind take you. She says, you have a vision and know the legacy that you want to leave. You know what you stand for, what you care about, and know what you want to have contributed and left behind when your time on this planet is over. So I want to close with something I read on Facebook this week. And it just had so much meaning to me in living with this pandemic, and it really touched me. And I don't know who wrote it, but what it is, it says, one day you're going to hug your last hug, kiss your last kiss, and hear somebody's voice for the last time. But you'll never know when the last time will be. So live every day like it's the last time you'll live with the person or persons you love. God bless you. Thank you for being here, and have a great week.